Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining Grandstream Alloy GWN Live Product Networking webinar. So let me introduce our panelists for the webinar. Firstly, we have Ben Mile, who's the Director of Sales Oceania from Grandstream Networks.
Hi,
He's been
everyone.
with the company for over 7 years now and has played a pivotal role in growing Grandstream and especially the GWN product line in New Zealand, Australia, and surrounding regions. And we also have Scott Young from Alloy Computer Products Australia, who has been with the company, I think, for like 17 or 18 years. So he has immense industry knowledge, and so does Ben. And yeah, so our topics for this
20 years
webinar
now,
are...
Ashraf.
Oh, 20 years, my apologies.
23 years.
23 years. So basically,
Yeah,
probably half
crazy.
his life, Scott has been with Alloy Australia. So he's very knowledgeable in this field, and so is Ben. And yeah, so we're primarily going to be focusing on our GWN product line, as Ben has those banners in the background. It's our fastest growing product line, and this webinar is going to touch upon our entire product line, going to touch upon GWN Cloud, GWN switches. We're also going to touch upon some case studies, how these are used in various real life scenarios, and many other features. You'll also get a chance to ask our panelists questions. So if you guys see on the bottom right-hand corner, there's that Q bubble. So any questions you have, please input them onto that Q bubble, and our panelists will answer them as the webinar goes on. So without further ado, Ben and Scott, I'm going to hand it over to you guys to take it away.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good morning, Ashraf. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, everyone. I won't bore everyone with my lovely image the whole time. I'll turn my camera off now as we head into the presentation. And we'll just get this presentation started. All right. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Grandstream and Alloy GWN Live Product Networking webinar. So kicking off, I always like to kick off with this one about Grandstream. So our mission as a business is we believe in connecting the world. We believe everyone should have the tools to communicate from anywhere on any device. And then, of course, we design the products that make this belief become a reality. And I think that's a pretty true mission statement, especially given the last 2.5 years that we've had with people having to adapt and work from anywhere. And a lot of the products that you'll see today actually assist within that and also sticking true to our mission. I'll run quickly through this for the people that haven't come across Grandstream much in the past. So who is Grandstream? We're a designer and manufacturer of unified communications and networking solutions. We're founded in 2002 in Boston, so we're US headquartered company. We have more than 600 employees across 14 countries. We're used and sold in 150 countries around the world. We have a global presence of company offices. So in the US, we have 3 locations. We have Venezuela, Morocco, China. We have 2 locations, and Malaysia, which for the Asia Pacific region is where our support team is based. And then 4 R&D development centers scattered across the US and also through China as well. What I'd like to do today, though, is rather than bore everyone with death by PowerPoint around spec sheets for each individual product, we'll start to go through some of the market trends, what we're seeing as a business. We will touch on some of the products and some of the new products that are coming. But just to kick off, so some market trends for us. GWN is the fastest growing category for us globally, with triple-digit growth in last year compared to the year before. Our WP800 series, which is our Wi-Fi cordless phones, are also growing dramatically globally. Intercom device sales, they're also growing for us. And our UC products, they're still growing. But as probably a lot of people on this conference, if they're involved in the UC side of products, we'll see that that market is maturing. It's still growing, but not at the same massive growth that it has been in the past years. Although I think Australia and New Zealand will start to see in the next probably 18 months to 2 years, we'll start to see those refresh cycles coming through from the early adopters of VoIP and SIP products. A little bit more in the market analysis. So Grandstream as a business, we ship more than 2.5 million products annually. Our products, as I said, are sold and used in over 150 countries. We're the #1 global manufacturer of VoIP, ATAs, and analog gateways. #2 global manufacturer of open standard IP or SIP phones. Number 2, global manufacturer, again, of open standard or SIP video phones. And in our GWN or our networking category, we've seen triple-digit growth annually since the product was introduced in 2017. But getting into all of that, what's the market opportunity? So there is exponential growth, as we've seen, and as I've said in the other slides, for Grandstream and also our partners across our GWN networking portfolio. UC, as I said, is still growing, but at a more modest pace. So there is still growth within that category as well. The IP phone market size is about 2.1 billion annually, and the enterprise networking size is about 50.6 billion. So a massive growth potential within that networking category. Even just the Wi-Fi market is 9.4 billion and is forecast to be about 25 billion by 2026. So massive, massive growth potential in the networking side compared to our traditional UC side of the business. Having said that, we do have a full complete offering that allows across both categories, either a converged solution, utilizing everything from one vendor, or utilizing components to bolt onto an existing solution that a customer may already have. Grandstream is a one-stop shop for communication solutions, so in the unified comms and also the networking. So as partners and as resellers, it allows you to have the best of both worlds across both of those categories, either to, as I said, cross-sell or to work into various solutions that a customer may need, and even bolt-ons to existing solutions they may have. So as we said today, predominantly we'll be focusing on our networking portfolio. So what product categories do we have within this? Obviously we have Wi-Fi access points, both indoor and outdoor. We've had these since 2017. We're in our second generation of those products. We've recently introduced Wi-Fi routers. We have network management. We'll go through some more detail on that in the coming slides. Network switches, we've started moving into that, and our range will be further expanding into that. Ethernet routers, so traditional Ethernet cabled routers, they'll be out in the short term. We had a model previously, these are the new replacement versions. And then obviously point-to-point and point-to-multipoint will be coming later in the year. So what are some of the key selling points? Why would people look at Grandstream? So what we can see is very similar in the low end and the mid-range segment. People focus on price, they focus on features, they focus on the performance overall, and then also they focus on the warranty. So price, we have price leading products. Features, we have fully featured products. Performance, we use high powered chips in all our Wi-Fi access points. So we have a large coverage radius for each of our access points, typically meaning less access points are required on a deployment. And warranty, all of our GWN products, all of our networking products come standard with a 3-year manufacturer warranty, which is also pretty much industry leading as well. But then also there's cross-selling opportunities in there. As I said, our products are open standards. We can cross across different segments. So either networking or someone that's wanting to expand out, say their UC side of their business or their telephony side of their business. Maybe they need some cordless solutions, which we can use Wi-Fi for that. We can expand their network out that way. And also cross-vendor, because we use open standards, we can bolt parts of our solutions onto installations that a customer may already have. So as I said, some of the key selling points. Well, big one that we've seen recently is the fact that we have stock. We have stock at all our distributors. We have plenty of stock ready to ship straight out to our distributors based on their orders. We have free controller options that can be remotely managed by mobile devices. They're secure straight out of the box because each device has a unique SSID and password burnt into it in the factory. And as I said, a 3-year standard manufacturer warranty across all the products in our networking category. So going into the controller options, we have 3 options. We have embedded, and I'm not going to delve down into all of these points, but we have embedded, so there's no additional cost, and it's ideally suited for a local deployment. We have GWN.Cloud, it's free to use. There's no limit to the number of devices you can connect to it, cloud-based. So it gives you the ability to access it from anywhere. And then for people that can't use a public cloud, so say in health, legal, and those type, and maybe even finance industries, there is an option where you can download a free version of what is essentially the cloud controller, which is called GWN Manager in this instance. It'll manage up to 3,000 devices. You can deploy that on your local server or put in a private cloud and be able to manage it exactly the same as you would for the cloud, but keeping control of that within your own network. Moving into some competitor analysis. So GWN Cloud, it's free to use. As we can see, looking at Ubiquiti and Meraki, there's costs involved. We all have cloud-based controllers across all three of these vendors. But where we also stack up as well is we have no limit to the number of devices you can connect to that cloud under that single account at no cost. Ubiquiti, we have a limit sitting there, and Meraki, obviously not all models are supported within their cloud version. So straight away, we've got some advantages there. And especially the big one there is the no license cost. From a technical support perspective, we have free technical support. You can log them through tickets and forums. Our team is based in Malaysia. The other competitors, as you can see here, they may only have an online support, online forum option, or they may have annual service contracts. We don't have annual service contracts for our products. You buy them, they're supported. Now moving into, say, some of the upgrade cycles or some of how long it's taken each of the Wi-Fi products to achieve their market share. So Wi-Fi 5 came out in 2014, took 4 years to get to 50% market share. Wi-Fi 6 took only 3 years to get there. 80+% by 2025 will be in Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6E, which only came out last year, 10% of the globally deployed Wi-Fi networks will be Wi-Fi 6E by the end of this year. Wi-Fi 6 adoption rates, 83% of organizations plan to adopt Wi-Fi 6 currently. So 57% are in the process and 37% will be in the next year. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a very quick uptake to Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 5 is still a very viable option. It ultimately comes down to what the end customer is trying to achieve from their network and what endpoints they're connecting to it. Obviously, Wi-Fi 6 access points are only going to get the full advantage if you're using Wi-Fi 6 devices connected to it. But by installing that now, they may also get some future proofing. So what are some of the strategies for success? So obviously cross-selling opportunities within existing use. Yep.
Sorry, Ben, just quickly, can we just go back one slide? So can you just let everybody know some of the differences between Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6? Like, why would you go Wi-Fi 6 over Wi-Fi 5?
The two biggest reasons someone would look at Wi-Fi 6 over Wi-Fi 5 is obviously, first one is faster data speeds that you're going to get through the access point. Having said that, that is also going to be contingent on the switching infrastructure you have behind the access point. But one of the other reasons that people may choose Wi-Fi 6 over Wi-Fi 5 is for denser networks where there's a larger number of users connecting to that network. Wi-Fi 6 access points will allow for larger numbers of devices to connect to a single access point. So again, for larger, more dense networks like sports stadiums or offices where you have large numbers of devices connecting to it. At a home environment, you may still go Wi-Fi 6 because you may want the faster data transfer speeds. But as I said, just on that faster data transfer speeds, and I'll touch on that in some slides further down, you just need to watch that switching infrastructure that sits in behind it.
Perfect. Thanks, Ben.
No hassles. Easy done. So strategies for success. So there's some cross-selling opportunities within your existing UC customers. So if they've got a PBX on site or they're using a cloud PBX, they can use the WP800 series, which is our Wi-Fi cordless phones, and then you can use the or the Wi-Fi GRP, so our Wi-Fi-based desk phones. You can use them as the bridge to start talking about their Wi-Fi network. Do they need to upgrade their Wi-Fi network? What's their Wi-Fi network like? What sort of speeds are they getting? How reliable is it? Comms and security customers, you can cross-sell into them using either Wi-Fi or network switches. So again, there's existing customers that you may have that aren't necessarily currently talking to you about Wi-Fi, but you may be able to start discussing their networking requirements based around other products. Targeting into new networking focused resellers, partners, customers. Using competitor stock shortages. We know there's a number of other vendors out there that are just starting to get stock back in now or are still having stock issues. We don't have any stock issues across our full GWN or our full networking portfolio. Price advantages. We're generally more cost effective. Doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a cheaper product, it's just more cost effective, but it's fully featured. And obviously the 3-year warranty. Straight away, customer doesn't have to worry about it for 3 years. You don't have to worry about it for 3 years. If you're doing it as a managed Wi-Fi network for a customer, you can put them on a 3-year contract and know that that device is fully covered for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, swap out the access points. By then, they'll probably be ready to go to Wi-Fi 7 or further. Utilising our repositories of Salesforce. So we have battle cards, which show how we compare against other vendors. Sell sheets, which are the key selling points of each of the devices. Comparison charts, they compare all our own products and show the differences between each of them, so you can quickly determine which access point or which switch is better for the customer. Case studies, we'll touch onto them further down the presentation, and our partner marketing portal, again, we'll touch on that further down the presentation. But the main thing is get us involved, be it either Grandstream, be it Alloy, get us involved, let us help you work out the solution for the customer and how to best design that solution for the customer. All right, now we'll start to go into some of the products. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of products here. All of our products are on our website, but I will go through some key products within this presentation. So what makes Wi-Fi easy with our GWN series? As I said earlier, we have 3 free management options to suit whatever deployment, however you want to deploy it for the customer. Easy installation. As we can see there's an app you can download to your phone. You can scan the barcodes on the back, push it straight up to the cloud and provision it. Powerful access points. As I said, we use high power chips in them, and most of our access points, the internal ones, you're looking at around about 165 to 175 meter radius. And then you have real-time monitoring alerts and reports running through that cloud controller so that you can start to see exactly what's going on with your customers' networks and be able to manage it remotely for them. I put this slide up because this shows all of our indoor access points. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these. I'm not going to run through every single feature of each one of these. That would just be boring everyone. All the product data sheets for these are available on our website. And this is an example of what our comparison charts look like. So I know it's small and I know there's a lot of data on there. Again, these are available through our partner marketing portal as well. It compares all of our indoor access points and it starts to compare them all feature by feature by feature. You can easily determine which one suits your customer best. Some of the ones that I will touch into though is our Wi-Fi 6 access points. So this is our entry-level Wi-Fi 6 access point. It has a wireless throughput of 1.7 gig. Okay, now that is aggregate. Obviously on the back of it, we have 2 1 gig Ethernet ports. You would need to be aggregating it across 2 1 gig ports on your switch to get the full 1.7 gig throughput speeds. Coverage range is about 175 meters and we'll be able to connect up to 256 concurrent devices to it. So quite a feature-packed entry-level access point as an internal Wi-Fi 6 one. Moving up to its bigger brother though, the 7664. This one here, and this is where we start to get into the importance of the switching infrastructure in the background. 3.5 gig aggregate wireless throughput. Okay, how do we get that? We need to have a network switch on the customer site that can support multi-gig or at least 2.5 gig throughput on that network switch port. If it does, on this access point, we have a 1 gig Ethernet port and a 2.5 gig Ethernet port. Combine those two and aggregate them through the ports on the switch using at least a 1 gig port and a 2.5 gig port on the network switch. You've got 3.5 gig throughput right back through the switch, right back to the router and out to the internet. As we can see here though, massive jump, 750 concurrent clients you can connect to it. And a coverage range of about 175 meters. So again, a very powerful access point. This one here I've included because it's a unique type offering. So it is a wall mount Wi-Fi AP. These are very popular in accommodation, in retail, any environment where people may want to have the access point that is not as obtrusive or a little bit more hidden within those environments. We have a 2 gig aggregate throughput. So again, using 2 1 gig ports on the network switch. Supports 200 plus concurrent Wi-Fi devices. And as we can see, we have Ethernet ports on there, which we can then plug Ethernet devices into. We have 2 of them that have PoE out. So we can power, say, a IP desk phone or a couple of IP desk phones. we can power them straight out of this access point, which could be sitting below a desk in a accommodation or a hotel environment, behind a desk in a retail environment. So it allows us to also not only provide the access point, but also some mini switching infrastructure at that local location where the access point is. This one here is exactly the same, but it is the Wi-Fi 6 version of it. So the differences we see here, if we quick flip back between them, we have 200 plus concurrent Wi-Fi devices on this one. The Wi-Fi 6 one, we're getting up to 500 plus concurrent Wi-Fi devices. So a much more powerful access point designed for very high density or high usage networks where you're needing a large number of devices to connect all at once. Then we move up to this one here is a new one that's coming. So it's a Wi-Fi 6 access point. So as we can see, much faster wireless throughput and 175 meter coverage range and 256 concurrent devices connected to it. So this one here, we haven't quite released yet, but it will be coming out very, very shortly. And as we can see here, the big thing here is the speed, focusing on this one, getting out a much faster connection to the devices that are connecting to it. Moving into our outdoor access points, we can see here, we've got a range of 4 concurrently. So these are weatherproof, they're longer range access points as well. Now, when I say weatherproof, they have an IP66 rating, so long as you mount them vertically, not horizontally. And as I said, they have longer ranges. So typically speaking, as we can see here, we're talking about 250 meters to 300 meter coverage range versus the indoor ones that were 165 to 175. They're essentially, you can see the part numbers are the same as our indoor access points, just with an LR put on the end for long range. So feature sets are basically the same, just putting into an IP66 rated casing and increasing the coverage range. So touching into here, as we can see, pretty much an identical match for the 7660 that we saw just before. The biggest difference here though is the 250 meter coverage range. The antennas on here, they are detachable. They ship as omnidirectional out of the box, but obviously because they are standard screw type connector, you can change them to directional or sectorized antennas if you so wish. The 7664 is the bigger brother. So as we can see, it's still got the same 3.5 gig throughput, but the coverage range, we're up to about 300 meters. Again, antennas are changeable, shipped omnidirectional, that can be changed for directional and sectorized. They're standard connector types, so you can source antennas from anywhere that you may wish to source Wi-Fi antennas from. Now, moving into one of our newer categories, Wi-Fi routers. So we have 2 models here that are, or 2, I'll say 3 models because there is a slight difference between them. So the 7052 and the 7052F, they are Wi-Fi 5 routers, hence why there's the 705. They'll support up to 100 concurrent devices. They have 4 external antennas, so 2 per band, 2 of them for 2.4 gig, 2 of them for 5 gig. They have built-in VPN support, which obviously can be utilized for corporate networks, and they'll support mesh networking with GWN access points. Now, the differences between the 7052 and the 7052F. So the 7052 has an RJ45 WAN port on the back, a 1 gig port. The 7052F has a 1 gig SFP port on the back. So it allows you to use SFP modules. These routers do not natively support VDSL from them straight out of the box. You would essentially have to use a VDSL SFP module into them to support VDSL. And then moving into the Wi-Fi 6 version, so the 706 for Wi-Fi 6. Supports 256 concurrent devices. Again, we have the same VPN support in there. We have the same mesh network support. And we have 1.7 gig Wi-Fi speeds from this particular device. So a feature that is coming in a future firmware pack will be allowing to mesh multiples of these to create a whole home Wi-Fi network with these scattered around the home or the environment. Again, as I say, none of the Wi-Fi routers, or actually None of our routers as a whole support VDSL. And the reason for that is VDSL it's classed as a dying technology globally. Unfortunately, due to some of the decisions made by previous governments and current governments, our NBN was used as a political football. So we still have a lot of legacy VDSL around the country. So we would have to use SFP modules for those. Moving into the next category, which is our wired routers. So we used to have a model called a GWN 7000. These are essentially its replacement that are coming. So coming in with an entry level, so the GWN 7001, it has 6 Ethernet ports, and all the ports support WAN or LAN. You can configure them through the interface. Again, we have built-in VPN support. And why do I keep saying built-in VPN support? Okay, so the good thing with our routers, they are supported through GWN.Cloud. So if you have a business that has a number of staff working from home, working hybrid, working remotely, an IT manager could provide these routers to staff as a condition of working from home, and the IT manager or the IT department then have the ability to create secure VPN connections from the staff member's home to the corporate environment and be able to manage those routers remotely to be able to make sure all the ports are secured and the router is locked down as much as they want, versus the employee using their own router at home, which could have however many ports open and however many security vulnerabilities in there, because the firmware may never have been updated on the staff member's own router sitting at home. The cloud controller would allow you to upgrade the firmware and remote reboot the routers and such as well. Again, we have the ability to use it as a embedded controller to be able to manage GWN access points if we want to be able to manage them on site. The 7002, biggest difference with this is we have 2 gigabit SFP ports and 4 gigabit Ethernet ports. Again, all the ports support WAN or LAN, otherwise same feature set. The biggest difference here is we have the SFP ports. So again, we could put a VDSL SFP module into them. And the 7003, I've just seen we have a wrong picture sitting there, is the bigger brother, which has 2 gigabit SFP ports and 9 gigabit Ethernet ports. So more switching functionality within the router itself. So as I say, I apologize for that. There's an error in that picture. And we've also stepped up the embedded controller functionality to be able to manage up to 150 GWN access points on site if the customer wants to keep that management of their Wi-Fi network on site. Moving into our newest product category, which is our network switches. And this is essentially completing the last part of our converged solution to be able to have everything to be able to be provided from the one vendor or to be able to do the mix and match that we've spoken about. So moving into unmanaged network switches, these ones are coming soon. So we will kick off with a number of products within this category. The ones we'll talk about today is a 5-port switch, so the 7700 and the 7700P. So what's the difference between them? The one with the P on the end supports PoE, the one without the P doesn't support it. So we have 5 RJ45 gigabit ports on both of these. The 7700P supports PoE out on 4 of those ports. And as we see down the bottom, the 4th point down highlighted in blue, we have the power budget sitting within that switch. So we have 60 watts that we can spread across them. Moving into the next ones, we're going to move into an 8 gigabit port one. So we have a 7701 and a 7701P. As I said, the P on the end determines it has PoE support. So the 7701P, as we can see there, supports PoE over 4 ports. We do have another model, which is the 7701PA, which is A for all ports, and that is 8 ports supporting PoE across them. And the 4th port down, we can see again the power budgets that we have. So the standard PoE one, where we have 4 ports PoE, we have 60 watts to share across the ports. The full 8 ports, we have 145 watts to share across that in the 7701PA. And this particular series, the 7800 series, is out now. So we have an 8, 16, and 24 gigabit port switches. and they have either 2 or 4 SFP ports, gigabit ports on them. So the 8 port, as you can see, has 2, and the 16 and the 24 have 4 gigabit SFP ports on them. These, as I say, these ones are available now. They're a layer 2+ switch. So they do have management functionality within them. Currently, they can be managed, they can be brought into GWN Cloud. And what you're doing then is tunneling down to the switch for the management side. In the next major update to GWN Cloud, more of the functionality for management will come directly into the cloud versus tunneling out to the switch. So now that we've covered off all of those, let's start talking about some of the competitors, because obviously there's always going to be competitors. There's Ubiquiti, TP-Link, D-Link, Ruckus, Meraki, Netgear, all the ones that everybody's heard of. The main thing I would say here is challenge the competition. Don't be afraid of it. As I mentioned, there's battle cards in our partner portal. They will show you the differences between our products and the competitor products. Where we're a bit different though is we'll give you a warts and all. We'll show you where we're better, but we'll show you where they may be better. So you can have that honest discussion with the customer. What are some of the target verticals? Enterprises, small to medium businesses, hospitality, education, healthcare, call and contact centers. Going back to say the enterprise and small to medium business, that's not only within their environments, it's also going back into their staff working from home or remotely or their sub offices, because obviously we can manage those through a cloud controller. We can put the routers in to manage the VPN connections between the sites and help them with their security concerns as well. A couple of case studies. So this particular one here is in New Zealand. They used a mixture of the outdoor ones. So they used 2 Wi-Fi 6 ones. They used the entry-level Wi-Fi 6 and the higher powerful Wi-Fi 6. So they were looking to cover 25 acres of land. So they chose those 2 models because of their long coverage range. So what were they trying to solve? So they have many visitors and employees at the nursery. The networks needed to support high usage and also the density of those devices connecting. As I mentioned earlier, the 7600 LR supports up to 256 devices, and the 7664 LR, the bigger one, supports up to 750 devices. So plenty of capacity within those access points for the high density network that they were wanting to deploy. And then they also utilize the cloud management. So the cloud configuration and management of the access points was mandatory so that they could manage that from wherever. The access points in the nursery were deployed using GWN.Cloud, free of cost, not only deployed, but then they're able to be managed ongoing, free of cost, because there is no license charges for that cloud controller. And another different one, this is moving more into the accommodation type environment. So a hotel environment or an accommodation environment doing a retrofit, they used a mixture of access points here. So what they were trying to do was, the installation was a little bit tricky here. Some of the access points are installed in the roof and the building apartments, hence why they used a mixture of access points. The upstairs apartment roof has the master access point, and then the downstairs access points operate over a mesh connection back to the master access point. And the reason for that is cabling wasn't available where they needed to be able to put their access points. So they've utilized a mixture of network topology to be able to solve the customer's solutions. What they're needing is 40 to 50 users regularly using the network for internet access, and then internet access is now consistent in all of the rooms across the environment. And as we can see in the last point, even using the mesh deployment, the Wi-Fi speeds never drop below 20 meg, which is more than sufficient for people to be able to utilize in a hotel room whilst they're traveling. So that would still be classed within a hospitality environment, that would still be classed as a high-speed network. Moving a little bit into where we're heading. So we're moving into unmanaged switches. We'll have some layer 2 light switches coming out. The layer 2 plus we already have. We'll be moving into layer 3 switches, layer 3 multi-gig, so that's 2.5 and 10 gig ports, and then moving into SFP switches as well. The routers, as we can see, we've already got the Wi-Fi ones out. We have a couple of other ones coming out. The green column, the 7064, that is essentially the Wi-Fi 6 router, but it has a 10 gig LAN and WAN port on it to support multi-gig connections into the home or office. The low-end routers we've spoken about, the mid-range wired routers, they're a bit further out. Moving into the Wi-Fi access points, the range will be staying reasonably consistent this year. We'll have a couple of other devices coming in. So we'll have the two Wi-Fi 6 ones, which is the 7661 and the 7662, which one was the in-wall Wi-Fi 6. The other one is a hybrid Wi-Fi 6. So it has some differences between the 2.4 gig and 5 gig band as far as what type of MIMO they use. And then we'll potentially have a Wi-Fi 6E access point coming out as well. Unmanaged switches will move from 5 gig, 8 gig, 16 and 24 gig ports with PoE, non-PoE, and also multi-gig options on them. Layer 2 light managed switches, as we can see here, 5, 8, 16 and 24 gig ports, and also multi-gig options coming, as well as PoE versions. Moving into the layer 2 plus, we'll be adding a 48 port switch, which will be stackable. It'll have PoE and sitting above the current 24 port layer 2 switch that we have. Layer 3 switches, layer 3 managed multi-gig switches. Again, we'll have PoE and stackable options. Moving into full SFP port switches. So 12 full SFP plus ports. So you can essentially use that as an aggregation or a core switch within a larger network, and then have multiple GWN switches sitting below that. And then obviously we have the point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. So these are longer range, up to 20 kilometers and up to 8 kilometers, either in a head end and multi-receivers, as in that's typically a point-to-multipoint, or one-to-one, which is a point-to-point solution for a longer range, further past our current external access points that only have a range up to 300 meters at the moment. These will start to give options of up to 8 and 20 kilometer range. Obviously, that is line of sight. So as you can see, we've got 3 new models coming in the Wi-Fi access points, 8 models coming in the VPN routers and firewalls, 10 models coming in the unmanaged and layer 2 light managed switches, 10 plus models coming in the managed network switches. So here we start to talk as in layer 3 multi-gig and the aggregation, and then 2 models coming in the point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. So essentially that gives us about 33 to 35 new networking products this year. I'll hand over to Ashworth to have a quick chat about the next couple of slides.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. So yeah, this is basically the partner marketing portal that Ben has kept touching on. So this is a new web page that the marketing team has created to basically give you a simple tool to access all our marketing resources. So this ranges from presentations to high definition images of our products, comparison charts, sales kits, and a bunch of other resources that will be useful for you guys. So I will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow, and I will include the registration link on that email. So I highly recommend you guys register for this portal, and after that, it's very easy for you guys to access any resources. And there are a lot of resources on there, even some sneak peeks available, a lot of guides. So definitely this can add a lot of value for you guys. So highly recommend you guys register for it. And yeah, Ben, next slide, please. Cool. So the next slide talks about our Grandstream Academy, more specifically our Grandstream Certified Specialist Networking Training. So this is the first step in the Grandstream Academy, and we have recently updated our networking training with content about our latest switches and access points. So there is online training available and self-training courses available, which will be ready at the end of the month. So the self-training course, essentially you enroll for the course. It takes about I think 4 or 5 hours to go through the content of it, and then you write an exam. And if you pass, you're then eligible to go for the next step, which is Grandstream Certified Professional Training. So once again, I highly recommend you guys go through with this, and then we can definitely go ahead with the next step. So the Grandstream Certified Professional Training would be an in-person training. So we get enough people certified from, I think majority of our attendees are from Australia and New Zealand. So if we get a lot of you guys to go ahead and do the first level, which is a Grandstream Certified Specialist Training, we can look at having an in-person training in those 2 countries. So like I said, in the follow-up email, I will include details about this as well. Ben, next slide, please. So yeah, the third slide I want to talk about is a GWN case study incentive program that we've been running since the I think October of last year, and it's going to be running throughout the course of this year as well. So we're always on the lookout for case studies. Case studies are a great sales and marketing resource. People love to know how our products can be deployed in a real life scenario. So Ben touched upon a couple of case studies that some people had submitted. So I highly recommend, if you know where Grandstream has been deployed, please send us a case study. I will include the details for that in the follow-up email as well. And you also win a $500 gift card. If my math is correct, I think that's about 750 Australian dollars. So yeah, pretty good price for a case study. And yeah, I highly recommend that you guys submit a case study if you have access to it. And like I said, I'll include details about this in the follow-up email as well. So yeah, thank you, Ben. Back to you.
All right, so I think that wraps pretty much most of it up. I'll turn my camera back on now because we'll move into a Q&A session. There we go. All right. So I think Ashwith's been answering some of these questions as we've been going through.
Not in the Q&A box, just like on the chat, few things.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go to the Q&A, all right.
Q&A ones either. So what I might do, Ben, if you want, is I'll read out some of these questions and we'll get try and get answers to them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So Wayho asked, so GWN network switch can be on the same embedded controller. Not sure what he's actually asking. I'm assuming, Way, you're trying to just ask whether you can actually control the network switches and the access points from the same controller. Is that what you're asking there?
If we're talking maybe from the embedded, so the embedded controller will manage the APs, but it won't manage the switch. The switch would be managed through the cloud controller.
GWN Cloud only for the switches. Because,
yeah, as far as I'm aware at this point, yes. So the access points can be managed through the router, and they can also be managed through another access point. So you can have basically an access point as the master, another access point as the backup master, and then every other access point sits as a slave. So that supports the access points, but the controller within the access points was designed and built prior to the switches coming out. So unless we do an update to that firmware to allow that at the current point, it would only allow you to manage APs from the embedded controller.
Yeah, and that's the same with the routers as well, as it, Ben. So the actual router configuration can't be done from the controller, can only be done from the GWN Cloud.
Well, the router can manage the APs, but the AP can't manage the router. No.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yep. All right, another one from Way. GWN 780X SFP ports, do they support 10 gig?
No, the multi-gig ones will be coming up with a layer three. Yeah, layer 3 will have the SFP plus ports on them.
Yep. So Way, the best way to kind of
so the layer 2 plus is 1 gig.
So the best way to do it is if it says SFP, that's only going to be 1 gig. If it's SFP plus, then you'll have support for 10 gig as well.
Yep.
All right. Can both 7701 series and 7801 series switches support Q&Q? So Q&Q, Ben, just in case you don't know what it is, it's just VLANs. So basically embedding a second VLAN ID into an original VLAN ID. So it's basically supporting 2 VLAN IDs. But so Q&Q is kind of a general layer 2 kind of function these days. So I'm assuming that it probably will. But we'd have to dig out the specs to find out.
The 7800 series, I believe, does. The 7700 series is essentially just a basic unmanaged switch. Oh, no, sorry, we're talking about a router there. 7701 is the router. No, sorry, the router is 7001. 7701 is a switch. It's an unmanaged switch.
I'm glad. Yeah, you
Yep,
know the
getting
rules.
caught
'Cause
out
I
by
don't
the
know
partner
the
list.
rules yet. Yeah, that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm the same. All right. So another question now from
And
Kyle.
I can and yep.
You finished? Yeah, you go. You're right.
Yep.
All right, cool. So another question now from Kyle. So he's rolling out some 7800 series switches in a network at the moment. Very interested in the GWN manager, but is there a limitation for us as a GWN manager cannot search with a IP address only MAC address, which is a problem as our network is a routed network with over 1,000 switches in the field. Is the option going to be available for IP searching? Okay, so what he's meaning is GWN Manager locally, when it goes out and searches devices, it's doing like a broadcast or it's doing a multicast to find those devices. Can you go out and search via IP because it's a routed network? So those broadcasts obviously aren't going to pass through those different network routes.
Yeah, what we might have to do, I might have to check on that and come back. So we might have to table that one, and I'll see what's coming as far as any updates to GWN Manager.
Okay, I was just saying.
So Kyle, if you want to, so I was going to say, if Kyle's still on the webinar, if he wants to shoot me a quick email just to ben.miall@grandstream.com, and then I'll come back with an answer.
Thanks, Ben. Can GWN Cloud support other access points, different brands?
No. No, short answer, no. It's designed to support Grandstream access points only.
All right. Has support for router switches been added to GWN Manager?
The routers have been added into GWN Cloud, and then GWN Manager typically follows that feature set. Switches, so when I say routers, pretty much full functionality for routers has been implemented. The switches are only to be able to tunnel out to the switches at the moment through GWN Cloud. So that will come in the next update. And then, as I say, GWN Manager typically mirrors what is available on GWN Cloud.
All right. So just quickly on that, Ben. So when we talk about managing switches at the moment from GWN Cloud, so when you say tunneling out, so what do we mean by that? Do we mean that from that GWN Cloud, we're able to create like a telnet session or something to that switch, or is it giving us access to the web GUI? What are we actually getting?
At the moment, it's giving you access to the web GUI.
Okay, so there's no.
So it essentially allows the switch to appear in GWN Cloud, but then from there it's going out to the web GUI.
Okay, and there's no firewall rules needed or anything like that to get access to that switch. Once that switch connects to GWM, it's just open and you can get through via GWN Cloud.
Correct. Yep.
Yep. And full support for managing a switch in GWN Cloud is coming in the near future as well, isn't it?
Yes, that's coming in one of the major updates for GWN Cloud this year. So I would say at this stage, probably late Q2, early Q3 at this point.
Okay, perfect. All right, here's another techie question. Will PTP be 60 gigahertz? Are we talking about PTP as in the timing protocol on switches? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Point to point,
networks?
we're talking point-to-point access points. Yeah, no, that won't be. That won't be 60 gigahertz, no.
All right. When will the point-to-point and point-to-multi-point be launched in the market?
They probably won't be until, I would say, getting towards the end of late Q3 at this point.
Yep. All right. So there's a couple more questions in the chat section here. So this is Kevin Scott asking, what sort of user level access to the routers is there? So example, IT and telcos share the router and need separate logins with admin rights. Is that possible? So can we create different roles and logins for the routers? Yeah, I've got one sitting here, but I haven't
would-
played with it yet to have a look.
Yeah, I'd need to check on that. I mean, GWN Cloud lets you do administrator and sub-administrator. It's not ideal for that scenario. I'd have to have a bit more play around with the wrap to see what sort of functionality. There is obviously options and ways that it can be set up, whether it's being utilized for the cloud or whether it's being utilized in a home mode. But crossover between the two, I'd have to have a look.
Yep. All right, GDMS and GWN can be blocked by firewalls. I have customers on Sophos and Cisco firewalls that block cloud access. Yeah, okay. So Mark, in terms of doing that, is that just because they're blocking web ports out, or do you know what's actually specific to blocking, or why those firewalls are blocking that access? Sorry, I know you're not open, but yeah, very strict rules. Yeah, so there's probably outbound kind of web access rules that are blocking that access. But normally GWN Cloud, it does just use like HTTP, HTTPS to communicate, doesn't it, Ben?
Yeah. Typically, there's not generally an issue getting out with it unless it is a really ultra lockdown network. And then, you might have to open some ports to allow that functionality.
Yeah, okay, Mark. Only high-end firewalls, yeah. And I suppose it's really depending on the network that the devices are being used. If it is a sensitive network with outbound rules being implemented as well, then yeah, you will have cases where you might not get access to those cloud-based platforms. But in those cases, that's where we can run the GWN Manager or something like that and run it on premise.
Correct. You can either run on premise or you can put it into a private cloud and potentially lock things down more that way.
Yep. I had a couple other questions, but I think we've basically covered all the ones that I had, Ben, anyway, so that's all good. All right, I don't think there's really much more, Ben.
No, I think we've covered them off. I see one question there. Can you supply the VDSL SFP modules?
Yeah.
As a vendor, we won't be. That would be more either a distributor, or if distributors don't, there are models out there that are freely available. But it's not something that we'll be supplying as a Grandstream branded module.
So what Alloy are going to look at doing is sourcing a few SFP modules and making sure that they work with the Grandstream routers. We probably won't supply the SFP modules, but we'll do some testing to ensure compatibility with the Grandstream routers. And we'll try and do that ASAP. So we can at least offer you guys a solution for that. Here's a question for you, Ben. From Mark, is Grandstream going to work with 3CX more in the future? I'll leave you to answer.
Short answer to that, Mark. Okay, short answer to that, Mark. It sits purely with 3CX. We provide all the versions of our firmware as we update them. It then comes down to how quickly 3CX implement them into their particular server and their versions of firmware updates. So it's well, we are certainly playing ball. I've got to show you the email trails internally from our IoT team that show that we have submitted the firmware across. So, yep.
Like we'll leave it at that, guys. So I don't think we'll go into any
but we will leave it at that. We won't enter into a slinging match. I'll stay out of that type of scenario. I don't particularly like talking about other vendors. I'd rather just leave it at that.
Yep.
Hey guys, there's a question from Paul. If you guys haven't touched on that already, he literally just sent in a question.
Sorry. Okay, will the router operate in place of one provided by, say, Optus Telstra as we connect all WAPs to our switch and our switch to it? So it depends on the internet connection, Paul. So the routers all have, okay, so majority of the routers have a WAN-based Ethernet port. So if you've got fiber to the premise, then you're going to have no problem using the Grandstream routers to connect to that. The issue kind of is more with VDSL, but because Grandstream have now released that router with the SFP module, we can, like we were saying before, look at using a VDSL-based SFP module to support those VDSL NBN connections as well.
Correct, yeah. I mean, to answer that very quickly and easily, I run fibre to the home, and I'm running a 7062 sitting in my house that just connects straight out to the internet provider. I can see another question there about any concerns with chipsets. No concerns with chipsets. We're actually seeing that chipset supply is starting to ease and will become less and less of an issue.
So Paul, just looking at, doing a quick search, and one of the popular ones that we had another partner talk about before was a ProSend. So the actual SFP module is almost the same cost as a router, unfortunately.
It is, yeah. They're about $120, $130.
Yeah.
But that's obviously at a retail price point. So dealing at a reseller level, it would sit below that, but that's just walking into a retail store or buying online.
Another way you can do it, Paul, as well, like if you're getting a router supplied to you via your service provider, you can put them into bridge mode as well. So you can just turn off the router functionality in that router, put it in bridge mode, and then run the Grandstream router kind of behind that router that you got from your service provider. And that way you can then have full management of that router, as well as be able to manage access points and other things as well.
Correct.
Okay, Ian, is there a way to set default settings for the routers so when the customer resets it, it still works without being factory default?
Okay, so what you can do if you use the router, this is where GWN Cloud becomes very powerful, because GWN Cloud, if you configure the router through GWN Cloud, similar to the access points, you do a reset on it. It will then go back out to the cloud, suck down its profile, reboot. So it's essentially is a bit like a telco lock to the device that's connected. So if someone does happen to hit the factory reset, then obviously it's going to be able to do that. Same as if someone did it on an access point, it would come straight back out to the cloud and retake its profile back to it and reboot itself, and up it goes again.
Yeah, that's good.
I can see Kevin's question about if VDSL is being phased out worldwide, what's Australia going to do to use in the future to replace fibre to the X? That would be a question for the government, whoever's in power at the time.
Roll out more fibre, Kevin. Roll out more fibre. It seems to be happening now anyway, because I know that a lot of areas are starting to get fibre replacing a lot of the copper wires anyway. So I'm assuming it's going to happen eventually.
Some of it is also some local councils are contributing towards it. So it almost becomes a priority as to where it goes. So, yep.
Yep, we agree, Ian.
I can see Ian saying catch up to New Zealand. Well, the difference with New Zealand is they had both major parties sit down and agree on a structure that no matter who was in power, that's how it was going to be deployed. That's where the Kiwis lead us.
All right, so another question from Ian. So if you are using the cloud to manage that device, if a customer wanted to move, or they, sign up with a different partner, and then that partner wanted to manage that device, do you have to deprovision it and then connect it to the new cloud account?
Short answer, yes. But having said that, there is, let's have a look at it in this scenario. So let's say you have a provider, customer moves away from it, the provider won't release them. There is a way that we can do it, but we would need proof and verification before it could be done. And that would be done on a case-by-case basis with that relevant information being provided.
Yeah. And you got to look at it from the carrier's point of view. Now, if they were supplying you this hardware and that you were under contract, then and you just stop paying for that contract, which included the payments for the routers, then you can't obviously then just take it off that network.
Correct. Or as I say, if you've got someone that's providing a managed Wi-Fi network, let's say that you've got a customer that's providing, or a reseller that's providing a managed Wi-Fi network, you don't want the customer being able to do a factory reset and put other settings in there. You want to be able to manage that for them, hence why they're bound to that account.
Okay, here's a good question, which does make total sense. So if they have a router and they reset it and it loses the internet connection settings, it can't then connect to GWN.Cloud to pull them back down again. So what's the workaround for that? Because obviously you need to be on the internet first to be able to connect to GWN.Cloud. But if you can't connect to the internet because your settings have been reset, then we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's going to be an easy workaround for that. It's similar to any other router that's provided by any internet provider. It's a similar sort of issue.
Yeah. That's right, Kevin. That's right.
Charge the customer a $50 service call.
Yeah. Is VLAN 10 tagging an issue? That's something different that I'm not aware of. What's that all about, Mike? I don't know. I'm assuming it's something
I don't believe it should be, because we have distributors in New Zealand who are shipping the routers out currently. So I don't believe there should be any issue with that at all.
So they all run off VLAN ID 10, I'm assuming. Is that what they do? Yeah, okay. All right, guys, we've gone over the hour now. So if there's any other questions that anybody has?
Hey guys, so one thing I wanted to point out, which I didn't mention earlier, so we're also having a giveaway for this webinar. So whoever has asked any valuable questions, and luckily everybody who has asked a question, it's been pretty valuable and added some value to our webinar, we'll be giving you guys a GWN 7801P switch. So yeah, I'll be announcing the winner of that shortly. So I've taken down everyone's names who's asked some questions, added some value, and yeah, I'll get back to you guys on that. And do we have any more
just
questions?
ready to wrap it up, Ashraf, so we'll do that very shortly. But one last question.
Yeah.
So geo-blocking, is there any security features and stuff in the routers that support geo-blocking?
I have no idea at this point. Firmware is still being finalized for those routers. I don't even have features. I don't even have full feature sets or data sheets for them yet.
So Mark, Kevin, I've actually got a couple of the routers here. I'll actually, so these are the Wi-Fi based routers, but I'll run some up and just have a look at what security features and things they do have, what firewall kind of rules can be created and stuff, and I'll let you guys know. As in configuration scripts, Kevin? Yeah, so can you use scripts to configure the routers? Like, is there any, so, sorry, Ben, is there any, like, can we like telnet into these routers and things like that? What type of management functionality do they have without me scrolling through the tech specs right at this point in time?
I'd have to dig all that out. So I haven't got all the tech specs sitting in front of me.
We'll find out for you, Kevin. I'll let you know. Yeah, no problem. We'll find out and let you know. All right, guys. I think, Ashraf, it's time to
right.
do your lucky draw.
That's just to work his magic.
Oh, I'm not gonna do it like live. I'll do it offline and then announce.
Ah, okay. We don't want to celebrate a winner today.
You're not going to use the wheel of names.
I'll do that after this is done, and then so guys, I've taken all the details of everyone, and whoever's the lucky winner will be getting an email. So yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much, Ben and Ashraf, for your time today.
No problems at all.
Good webinar.
No hassles.
Yeah, thank you guys
Hopefully
as well, and
everyone's got
thank you
value out of
everyone for joining. And yeah, I think everybody pretty much stayed on throughout the whole hour. So you guys definitely did a good job then. Good job, guys.
I must have kept everyone interested. Can't have been too boring.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Ashraf will be in contact with the winner. And
Yep.
if there's any, there was a few questions that we need to come back to you guys about, so we'll do that ASAP as well.
No problems. Easy done.
All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cool. Good job, Ben and Scott. I'll catch up with you guys soon then.
Yeah, no problems. Easy done.
All right, I'm gonna close it out then. See you guys.